The silence should have been their first warning. Normally, when the cuffs snap shut, people explode, screaming, pleading, threatening, or breaking down in tears. But when Sergeant Harlan Brooks slammed the cruiser hood shut on the man in the suit, the man said nothing. He simply stared back with a calm, predatory intensity, the look of someone watching prey step straight into a trap they had set for themselves. Brooks thought he had just arrested another thug flashing a phony badge. He had no idea he had just placed handcuffs on a decorated senior FBI special agent. He had no idea that within 6 hours, 17 badges would lie surrendered on a table. The mayor would be resigning in disgrace, and the small city of Maplewood, Louisiana, would be staring down a $10 million hole in its budget. This is the story of the most expensive traffic stop in history. The heat in Maplewood was suffocating, the kind that clings to your skin like damp wool. It was mid-afternoon on a Tuesday, and the humidity rose from the asphalt of Highway 90 in shimmering waves. Behind the wheel of a charcoal-grey, nondescript Chevy Malibu sat Darius Kane. To the untrained eye, Kane looked ordinary, a tall black man in his late 30s, dressed in a plain polo shirt and slacks, listening to an audiobook on criminal psychology. His hands rested at 10 and 2. He drove exactly the speed limit. But Darius Kane was far from ordinary. He was a senior special agent with the FBI, assigned to the Public Corruption Unit out of New Orleans. He wasn't officially on duty. He was returning from a personal meeting with an informant in a neighboring county, but an FBI agent is never truly off the clock. He glanced in the rear-view mirror. A Dodge Charger marked with Maplewood Police Department insignia had been tailing him for 3 miles. Kane turned down the audiobook volume and muttered, "Here we go." He knew Maplewood's reputation. The Bureau called it a speed-trap town, small, bloated police budget, a highway that doubled as their main revenue source. But there was something darker, whispers of excessive force, fabricated charges, and civil asset forfeitures that bordered on theft. The lights came on, blue and red slicing through the haze. Kane signaled calmly, eased onto the gravel shoulder, and placed the car in park. He lowered all 4 windows, placed both hands visibly on the steering wheel, and waited. 2 officers approached. Sergeant Harlan Brooks on the driver's side. Buzz cut. Oakley sunglasses perched on the back of his neck. Uniform stretched tight across his biceps, hand resting on his holster like a threat. On the passenger side was Officer Liam Hayes, a rookie barely 6 months on the job, already looking uneasy. Brooks tapped the window even though it was down. "License and registration." "Good afternoon, officer," Kane replied evenly. "May I ask the reason for the stop?" "I asked for your license and registration, not conversation," Brooks snapped, chewing gum loudly. "Do it, now." Kane moved deliberately. "I'm going to reach into my jacket pocket for my wallet. I want to inform you that I am a federal law enforcement officer and I am armed. My badge and credentials are in the same pocket as my license." The air shifted. Brooks barked a mocking laugh and glanced over the roof at Hayes. "Hear that, Liam? We got ourselves a Fed, or at least he thinks he is." Brooks sneered at Kane. "Let me guess, Amazon special. Step out of the car." "Officer," Kane said steadily, hands still on the wheel, "I have identified myself as required by law. If I step out, we are escalating this unnecessarily. I suggest you examine my credentials right here." "I said get your ass out of the car!" Brooks shouted, yanking the handle. The door was locked. "Unlock it or I break the glass." Kane exhaled slowly, unlocked the door. Before he could unbuckle, Brooks ripped the door wide, grabbed Kane by the collar, and hauled him out. Kane stumbled, but regained his balance. At 6'3", he towered over Brooks, and for a split second, the sergeant flinched. "Turn around, hands on the roof." Kane complied without resistance. He knew the rules. Resistance gives them justification for force. Compliance forces them to dig their own grave. Brooks kicked Kane's feet apart and patted him down roughly, immediately finding the holstered Glock 19 on his hip. "Gun!" Brooks yelled, snatching the weapon and tossing it onto the hood with a clatter that made Kane wince. "Government property." "I told you I was armed," Kane said calmly. "My credentials are in my left breast pocket." Brooks reached in and pulled out the leather wallet. He flipped it open. The gold FBI shield caught the sunlight. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent. Brooks stared at it, then at Kane, then back at the badge. A smarter officer would have paused, called dispatch, verified, requested a supervisor. Harlan Brooks wasn't a smart officer. He was a bully who had ruled Maplewood unchallenged for 15 years. To him, a black man in a Chevy Malibu didn't look like FBI. He looked like a liar. Fake, Brooks declared, tossing the badge onto the hood beside the gun. I've seen better fakes at a pawn shop. Sir, Hayes said quietly from the other side. That looks pretty real. Maybe we should run the serial number. Shut up, Hayes, Brooks spat. I know a prop when I see one. This guy's probably running drugs. That's why he's got the fake badge and the piece. We're impounding the car. Kane turned his head slightly. Sergeant Brooks, I'm giving you a direct warning. If you place me under arrest, you are violating Title 18, Section 111 of the United States Code, interfering with a federal officer. I strongly suggest you run my name through NCIC before you put those cuffs on. Brooks stepped close, breath hot with stale coffee and tobacco. You think you can roll into my town with your fancy words and your toy badge and scare me, boy? You don't know who you're talking to. He spun Kane around and slammed him against the car, wrenching his arms back so hard the shoulder joint screamed. You're under arrest for impersonating a police officer, illegal possession of a firearm, and resisting arrest. The cuffs clicked shut. Kane didn't fight. He simply met Brooks's eyes and spoke softly. You just ended your career, Sergeant, and you just bankrupted this city. Brooks laughed. We'll see who's bankrupt when we seize the cash you're hiding. The ride to the Maplewood station was short and silent. Kane sat in the back of the Charger, wrists tight against hard plastic, breathing slowly to keep his heart rate down. He was already cataloguing time of arrest, mile marker, badge numbers, probable cause non-existent. He was no longer a prisoner. He was collecting evidence. At the squat, outdated brick station, Brooks paraded him through the booking room like a trophy. Look what we caught on the highway, he announced. Fake fed. Had a Glock and a badge that looks like it came out of a cereal box. 2 officers by the coffee machine laughed. Another one? That's the 3rd fed this month, Harlan. Kane's ears sharpened. A pattern. They shoved him toward the booking desk. Dispatcher Clara Evans looked up, bored. Name? Darius Kane. I am a special agent with the FBI. I am requesting immediate contact with the special agent in charge at the New Orleans field office. Brooks slammed his hand on the counter. Put him down as John Doe. No phone. He's a flight risk. I have the right to a phone call, Kane stated clearly. You have the right to shut up, Brooks sneered. Process him. Strip search. I want to know where he's hiding the drugs. Kane's jaw tightened. A strip search without warrant or reasonable suspicion was blatantly illegal, but physical resistance would only give them an excuse for injury. I do not consent to a search, he said loudly, ensuring the corner camera captured every word. I am stating for the record that I am a federal agent being held unlawfully. Yeah, Brooks said. Tell it to the judge on Monday. They took his watch, belt, shoelaces. They took his real government-issued badge and dropped it carelessly into a plastic evidence bag labeled miscellaneous. They took his phone, which had been buzzing non-stop. Looks like his boss is calling, Hayes said, glancing at the screen. Caller ID, SAC Reyes. Brooks snatched it. SAC, probably his drug supplier. He powered it off. They pushed Kane into a holding cell. 10 by 10 concrete box, steel toilet, bench bolted to the wall. Another man sat there, a skinny kid with neck tattoos, eyes wide with fear. You really are fed? The kid whispered. Kane opened one eye. Yes. The kid shook his head. Brooks is going to kill you. He runs this place. Last guy who talked back fell in the shower, broke his jaw. Is that so? Kane asked quietly. Yeah, they plant stuff. Put a baggie in my pocket during a stop. I never touched the stuff. Now I'm looking at 5 years. Kane sat up straighter. What's your name? Tyler Voss. Well, Tyler, Kane said, today is your lucky day, because Sergeant Brooks didn't just arrest a man. He arrested a hurricane. 60 miles away, in the high-tech operations center of the New Orleans FBI field office, Special Agent in charge Nadia Reyes stared at a monitor. "Why is Agent Kane's phone off?" "Unknown, ma'am," an analyst replied. "Last GPS ping was on Highway 90 near Maplewood. He was supposed to check in 20 minutes ago." Reyes frowned. Kane was never late. Never. "Pull up traffic cams. Get the Louisiana State Police liaison on the line. I have a bad feeling." Back at the station, Chief Warren Tate strolled in, belt riding high, the kind of chief who preferred golf to policing. "What's the commotion, Harlan?" "Just a bust, Chief." Brooks grinned, cleaning under his nails with a knife. "Caught a guy impersonating a Fed. Big black guy in a Malibu. Fake badge, gun, the works." Tate froze. "A Malibu? Charcoal grey?" "Yeah." "And he had a badge?" Tate's face drained of color. He walked to the evidence bag on the counter, lifted it, squinted at the gold shield. He saw the intricate engraving, the holographic security seal almost impossible to forge. He flipped the wallet. Inside, smart chip card, Federal CAC. Tate's voice dropped to a whisper. "Harlan, you idiot!" "What?" "This isn't fake. This is a real federal badge." Tate's voice cracked. "You arrested a real FBI agent. Did you book him?" "Yeah, he's in a cell." "Did you strip search him?" "Standard procedure, Chief." Tate dropped the bag. It hit the counter like a gavel. "Oh my God, get him out, now." "He's bluffing." "Get him out!" Tate screamed. At that moment, the front desk phone rang. Clara Evans answered, eyes widening. She held the receiver toward Tate. "Chief, it's the New Orleans field office. They want to know why Agent Kane's GPS tracker is stationary inside our jail." The room went deathly quiet. Tate closed his eyes. He knew his career had just ended. But the storm wasn't just a phone call. It was a convoy of black Suburbans roaring down Highway 90 at triple digits. The cavalry had arrived, and they weren't bringing lawyers. They were bringing the full weight of the United States government. Panic swept the station in minutes. Chief Tate stood outside cell 2, keys shaking in his hand. Inside, Darius Kane sat on the bench, posture straight, eyes closed, like a man meditating in the eye of a hurricane. "Agent Kane," Tate stammered. "Sir, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I have the keys. We'll get your things, get your car out of impound. No charge, of course, and get you back on the road." Kane opened his eyes. They were cold steel. "I'm not going anywhere, Chief." Tate blinked. "Excuse me?" "I was arrested for impersonating a federal officer, illegal possession of a firearm, and resisting arrest. I have been processed. I have been strip searched. I am currently a prisoner of the Maplewood Police Department." "No, no." Tate waved his hands. "We're dropping everything, immediately. It was a mistake. Sergeant Brooks, he's overzealous." Kane rose and walked to the bars, gripping them. "You don't get to press rewind, Chief. A federal agent has been unlawfully detained and assaulted. My civil rights have been violated under Title 18, United States Code, Section 242. This cell is no longer a jail. It is a crime scene, and I am the primary evidence." Tate looked ready to be sick. "Agent, please. We can work this out." A heavy, synchronized thud echoed from the front, dozens of car doors slamming at once. Tate ran toward the lobby. Through the glass doors, the parking lot was blocked by 8 black Chevrolet Suburbans in tactical formation, 3 Louisiana State Police cruisers behind them. FBI agents in windbreakers poured out, moving with lethal precision. At the front walked SAC Nadia Reyes, small in stature, enormous in presence, sharp blazer, expression that could cut glass. 4 tactical agents flanked her, MP5s at low ready. Brooks stared out the window, smirk gone for the first time. "What the hell is this? They can't do this. This is my jurisdiction." He marched to the door and threw it open. "Hey! You can't park there! This is official police business only!" Reyes didn't slow. She walked straight to the steps, agents fanning out. "Who is in charge here?" "I am," Brooks puffed. "Sergeant Harlan Brooks, and you are trespassing." "Sergeant Brooks, Reyes cut in, stopping inches from him. I am Special Agent in Charge Nadia Reyes. You are holding a federal agent in your custody. You have exactly 30 seconds to produce him unharmed, or I will order my team to breach this building and treat every armed individual inside as a hostile combatant. Brooks scoffed. Hostile combatant. Lady, you've watched too many movies. Your boy's in a cell because he broke the law. I don't care who you are. 10 seconds, Reyes said, checking her watch. You're bluffing. You don't have a warrant. Reyes glanced at the agent beside her. Breach. The team surged forward. 2 agents seized Brooks, spun him, slammed him against the brick wall, stripped his weapon and radio in seconds. Hey, get your hands off me! This is assault on an officer! Federal jurisdiction overrides local when a federal felony is in progress, the agent stated flatly, zip-tying Brooks's wrists. The FBI swept the lobby. Dispatcher Evans threw her hands up. The coffee machine officers froze. Hands where I can see them, away from the weapons! Chief Tate burst from the hallway, pale and shaking. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! I'm the chief! Warren Tate! Reyes stepped into the center. Chief Tate, where is Agent Kane? He's in the back, Tate pointed with a trembling finger. I tried to release him. He won't leave. A grim smile touched Reyes's lips. That sounds like him. She turned to her team. Secure the building. No one leaves. No one touches a computer. No one makes a call. Seize the server room. Download every body cam, dash cam, and security tape from the last 24 hours. You can't do that, Brooks yelled from the floor. That's city property. It's evidence in a federal kidnapping case, Sergeant, Reyes replied, looking down. And you're the prime suspect. She looked at Tate. Take me to him. Tate led her to the cells. Kane stood at the bars, clothes rumpled but eyes sharp. Boss, Kane nodded. Darius, Reyes replied. You okay? Physically fine, professionally annoyed. You ready to come out? Not yet. I want the U.S. attorney on the line, and I want a forensic team to process my car before anyone from this department touches it again. They planted the idea of drugs. I want to make sure they didn't plant the reality. Already done. DOJ is on the phone. Forensics is 5 minutes out. An agent unlocked the door. Kane stepped out. Badge back around his neck, Glock resting on the table in front of him. He walked straight to Tate. Chief, Kane said, I am legally free now. Yes, absolutely. Good. Kane's voice was calm thunder. Now I'd like to report a crime. 30 minutes earlier, Kane had been a prisoner. Now he sat at the head of the chief's conference table, still in his wrinkled polo, badge gleaming, gun in plain view. Across from him sat Chief Tate, looking like a man awaiting execution. In the corner, Brooks sat handcuffed to a chair, fuming silently. Officer Hayes sat at the far end, tears streaming quietly. Reyes stood by the door, arms crossed, letting Kane run the room. Let's review, Kane said, tapping a file an aide had placed before him. At approximately 2:14 p.m., Sergeant Brooks initiated a traffic stop. Probable cause listed. Tate swallowed. Speeding. Dashcam footage, already pulled from your server, shows I was traveling 54 in a 55. No probable cause. Strike 1. Kane flipped a page. During the stop, I identified myself as a federal agent. Sergeant Brooks ignored this, then assaulted me. Strike 2. I thought it was fake, Brooks burst out. You people, you don't look like feds. The room froze. Kane turned slowly. You people? Brooks flushed. I meant, in the Malibu. It didn't look right. Kane continued. You brought me here. You authorized a strip search. Chief Tate, who signed off on that? Tate swallowed again. The sergeant has discretion. Wrong. Policy requires a lieutenant or higher for a warrantless strip search. You have no lieutenant on duty. That makes you responsible for the sexual assault committed against me under color of law. A federal civil rights violation carrying up to 10 years. Tate gasped. Sexual assault? Now wait. Unwanted physical contact involving removal of clothing without legal justification is sexual assault, Kane said coldly. And since it was done under color of law, it's a federal felony. He leaned forward. But here's the twist. You thought you were just harassing a driver. You thought you could seize civil asset forfeiture money. Take my car, my cash, send me on my way. That's the racket, isn't it? Kane pulled a document from the file. I've been looking into Maplewood for 3 months. The colour vanished from Brooks's face. You didn't catch me, Kane said, smiling thinly. I caught you. He was lying smoothly. The stop had been accidental, but leverage was leverage. Right now, we've tracked the pattern. You target out-of-state plates, fabricate probable cause, seize cash under forfeiture laws, knowing most people can't afford to fight in court. You've stolen $4 million from innocent motorists in 3 years. Kane pointed at Hayes. Officer Hayes, you said one thing during the stop. You suggested checking my badge. You hesitated. I knew it was real, sir. I tried to tell him. You have a choice right now, Kane said. Go down with the ship, or be a witness. Shut up, Hayes, Brooks roared. One more word, Sergeant, Reyes warned, and I'll have you gagged. Hayes looked at Brooks, then at Kane, then at the wall of federal badges and guns. I'll talk, he whispered. I'll tell you everything. The logbooks, the missing cash from the evidence locker, the chief's cut. You little rat! Brooks lunged, but the cuffs held. Tate put his head on the table. It's over. Kane stood and walked to the whiteboard. He wrote the number 17. There are 17 sworn officers in this department, he said. Every single one is now under federal investigation. My team is seizing your servers, financial records, and personal bank accounts. He turned to Reyes. Nadia, how many badges do we need today? All of them, she answered. We are shutting this department down. State police will take over patrol duties immediately. The governor has been briefed. Kane looked back at Brooks. You asked if I bought my badge on Amazon. You remember that? Brooks stared at the floor. I earned mine, Kane said softly. Yours just got cancelled. He turned to the tactical team leader. Get them out. Process them at Central Lockup in New Orleans. I don't want them in their own jail. As agents hauled Brooks and Tate away, Kane sat back and exhaled. The adrenaline ebbed, leaving a dull ache in his shoulder. Reyes poured him water. You really been tracking them for 3 months? Kane sipped. No, just passing through. But I knew if I squeezed, they'd confess to the rest. Reyes laughed quietly. You're dangerous, Darius. They dragged the wrong man to jail. 3 months later, the Louisiana summer had cooled, but the pressure on Maplewood was boiling. Darius Kane sat in a high-floor conference room in downtown New Orleans, Mississippi River, glittering outside. Beside him was his attorney, Marcus Reed, a legend in civil rights litigation who dismantled opponents with surgical calm. Across the table sat City Attorney Laura Klein and Mayor Victor Lang, both looking like they'd aged a decade overnight. Let's cut to the chase, Lang said, loosening his tie. What happened to you was regrettable. Sergeant Brooks was a bad apple. He's awaiting trial on federal charges. The chief has been fired. We've cleaned house. Kane tapped his pen rhythmically. Tap, tap, tap. Klein slid a paper across. We're prepared to offer $250,000. No admission of liability. Closes the book. You get a nice payday. Maplewood moves on. Reed picked up the paper, folded it into a paper airplane, and sailed it back. It landed in front of Lang. That's an insult, Reed said softly. And you know it. It's $250,000 for 6 hours in jail, Lang snapped. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't shot. He was inconvenienced. Kane stopped tapping. He leaned forward. Inconvenienced? I was stripped of my liberty. I was sexually assaulted under the guise of a search. I was paraded like a trophy. My reputation, my career, was put on the line. If I hadn't been who I am, if I had been a plumber, a teacher, or just a kid driving home, I would be in prison right now. Because Brooks would have planted the heroin he kept in his locker. We don't know that for sure, Klein began. We do, Reed interrupted. Officer Hayes testified yesterday. He told the grand jury about the magic baggie Brooks kept for out-of-towners, about the quotas you denied existed. Reed opened a thick file. We aren't suing for inconvenience. We are suing under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983 for deprivation of civil rights, false imprisonment, battery, malicious prosecution, and negligent hiring and retention. Lang's voice shook. And the number? $50 million. Lang choked. 50? That's the entire city budget for 5 years. Oh, we're very serious, Reed said. You knew. We have emails going back 3 years, complaints about Brooks, warnings from state police, and you did nothing. You let him run that highway like a toll road because the forfeiture money padded your budget. You built your city on stolen money. Now the bill is due. We'll fight this, Klein said, pale. We'll drag it out for 10 years. Go ahead, Kane replied. I'm an FBI agent. I'm used to long investigations. But while you fight, I will depose every person in your administration. I will put the mayor on the stand and ask about the golf trips paid for by the police union. I will put evidence locker audits on the evening news. Kane stood and buttoned his jacket. You have 24 hours to come back with a real number. If not, we see you in court. And when the jury hears how you treated a federal agent, they won't just give me the money. They'll give me the keys to the city. Kane and Reed walked out, leaving Lang and Klein in suffocating silence. The next day, discovery began in earnest. The rot wasn't just Brooks, it was systemic. They found the scoreboard, a whiteboard in the break room tracking cash seized from motorists. Dashcam footage of officers high-fiving after arresting a grandmother for resisting because she asked why she was pulled over. The 17 badges, 15 officers implicated, 12 indicted, 2 resigned in disgrace. Only Hayes and 1 other rookie remained untouched. The Maplewood Police Department ceased to exist. The building stood empty. Cruisers gathered dust. State police took over and wrote 0 tickets. The final blow came in a plain envelope from Evergreen Municipal Insurance. The city's liability policy was supposed to cover exactly this kind of catastrophe. Mayor Lang had counted on it, hoped the insurer would pay $5 or $6 million and let the city survive. He opened the letter, read it again. His hands shook. He dropped it and called Klein. Get in here. She read aloud, voice trembling. We regret to inform you that under Section 4, Paragraph B, coverage is excluded for acts deemed intentional, malicious, or criminal. Furthermore, given the federal indictments against Sergeant Brooks and Chief Tate and the systemic corruption the city failed to address despite prior knowledge, Evergreen considers the policy void regarding the Kane versus Maplewood matter. They're not paying, Lang whispered. Not a dime. If they don't pay, Klein trailed off, the judgment comes out of the general fund. We have $12 million in the general fund, Lang said. That's for fire, schools, roads, garbage. Kane is asking for 50. Even if he settles for 10, we're insolvent. The city is dead. The news hit that evening. Insurance giant denies Maplewood claim. Taxpayers on the hook for millions. The town hall meeting the next night was chaos. 700 furious citizens packed the high school gymnasium. They weren't angry at Kane anymore. They were angry at Lang, at Brooks, at the culture of silence that had let the corruption fester. Kane watched from his living room. He saw the mayor cowering behind a podium. He whispered one word: karma. 2 weeks later, the city folded before trial. They agreed to a $10.5 million settlement, the largest single police misconduct settlement in state history. To pay it, Maplewood took desperate steps. The police department was permanently disbanded. The council voted unanimously to dissolve the force. The building was sold to a developer for storage. Cruisers were auctioned. The city filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. Mayor Lang resigned the day the check was signed. Laura Klein moved 2 states away. Sergeant Harlan Brooks stood before a federal judge 3 months later. The cocky tyrant was gone, 30 pounds lighter, wife and children gone, blue wall crumbled. Because he used a firearm during a civil rights felony, mandatory minimums applied. Mr. Brooks, the judge said, you took an oath to protect the weak. Instead, you preyed on them. You are a disgrace to the badge. Sentence: 15 years in federal prison without parole. Chief Warren Tate tried to cut a deal but carried too much guilt. Convicted of conspiracy and embezzlement, he lost his pension entirely. The man who dreamed of golf in retirement got 5 years and would emerge a convicted felon, barred from government work or gun ownership. Officer Liam Hayes walked away. He testified truthfully, received immunity, but left law enforcement. The shame was too heavy. He returned to college, studying social work, determined to help people the right way. Maplewood became a shadow of itself. The speed trap vanished. Drivers cruised Highway 90 without fear. But parks grew wild. The library cut hours until it closed. Potholes turned into craters. The town that once thrived on stolen money now paid the real price. 6 months after the arrest, Darius Kane drove Highway 90 again, in the same charcoal grey Malibu, wearing the same suit. He passed mile marker 45. No cruisers waited. No lights flashed. Just open road. He drove past the old station. The sign was gone. Windows dark. A for sale steak in the lawn. Kane didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply nodded once, a quiet acknowledgement that balance had been restored. He touched the badge in his pocket, heavy, cool, real. He turned up the audiobook, pressed the accelerator, and drove on. The road was clear. The story didn't end with the settlement or the prison doors slamming on Harlan Brooks. Real stories of corruption never have tidy endings. They ripple. At Quantico, the Kane incident is now mandatory curriculum. New recruits sit in darkened auditoriums watching dashcam footage. The Malibu pulled over, Brooks escalating, Kane choosing patience over force. The instructor pauses at the cuffs clicking shut. "Look at his face," the instructor says. "That is not the face of a victim. That is the face of a man gathering evidence." Kane didn't fight with his fists. He fought with the Constitution. And because he didn't just win a lawsuit. He dismantled a kingdom. The lesson is stark. If a decorated senior agent can lose his liberty in minutes on a rural highway, an ordinary citizen has no chance against unchecked power. The badge they are about to earn is a shield, not a sword. Kane's life returned to a kind of normalcy, though he was forever changed. He didn't retire on the $10.5 million. He didn't buy yachts or islands. He kept driving the same Malibu, a quiet refusal to be chased off the road. Instead, he used the money to found the Highway 90 Legal Defense Fund, a non-profit providing elite legal help to indigent drivers victimized by asset forfeiture and illegal searches in rural parishes. He hired Marcus Reed to run it. In its first year, the fund overturned 42 wrongful convictions and returned over $3 million in seized property to innocent families. He turned the city's blood money into a lifeline. Professionally, Kane became a hunter of hunters. 1 year after the settlement, he was promoted to Assistant Special Agent in charge of the New Orleans field office. His first act, create Operation 45, a multi-agency task force named for the mile marker where Brooks ended his career. Operation 45 audited every small-town department with statistical red flags in traffic stops and seizures. In 18 months, it swept the state. Corruption uncovered in 12 parishes. Evidence lockers revealed as personal piggy banks. 3 tons of narcotics recovered from officers stealing from cartels to resell. 34 officers, 2 judges, and a district attorney indicted. The blue wall shattered. Maplewood faded into a cautionary tale. Bankruptcy was brutal. The police station became a storage facility. The town that once lived off illicit revenue now struggled to pay creditors. Property taxes soared. Town halls filled with shouting. Citizens blamed Lang, Brooks, and their own silence. They learned the hardest truth. The cost of hiring a bad cop goes far beyond his salary. It costs a community its future. Harlan Brooks sits in an 8x10 cell in a federal prison in Texas. Inmate number 8942-055. No swagger left. No visitors in 2 years. Protective custody. 15 years to replay that Tuesday afternoon, imagining the moment he could have checked the badge, written a ticket, waved the Malibu through. But those moments are fantasies. Reality is concrete walls, fluorescent lights, and the crushing knowledge that his ego destroyed everything because he couldn't accept a black man in a suit telling him no. The 17 badges were never reissued. They sit sealed in an evidence box in the New Orleans federal courthouse basement, artifacts of a fallen regime, gathering dust in the dark. The true moral of Darius Kane's story isn't that he was a hero because he carried a federal badge. It's that he was a hero because he held his dignity against indignity. He showed that the most powerful weapon against tyranny isn't a gun, a badge, or even a lawsuit. It is the truth, unvarnished, documented, undeniable. When you drag the truth into the light, even the darkest shadows have nowhere left to hide. And that is the incredible true story of how one unjust traffic stop annihilated an entire corrupt police department and cost a city $10 million. It stands as a terrifying reminder of how quickly power can be abused when no one is watching, and an even more powerful reminder that no one is above the law. Not the mayor, not the chief, certainly not the sergeant on the side of the road. Darius Kane's story forces an uncomfortable question. If this level of violation can happen to a sophisticated, armed, decorated senior FBI agent, what happens to the people who don't have a gold shield to protect them? How many Harlan Brookses are still out there, patrolling highways, looking for their next victim? And what are we doing to stop them? This story isn't just about justice served. It's about the vigilance required to keep our freedom. If this deep dive got your blood boiling, or if you believe in holding authority accountable, please smash that like button. It helps the channel grow and lets us keep telling these stories of crime, corruption, and karma. Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. I want to hear from you in the comments. What would you have done in Kane's shoes? Would you have kept your cool, or would you have fought back right there on the roadside? Let's talk about it below. Stay safe, know your rights, and remember, the truth always comes out in the end. I'll see you in the next one.